Zektar of the Vorthak Empire considered himself something of an expert on primitive species. After all, he'd been harvesting lesser beings for the galactic black market for over 30 cycles now, and his success rate was an impressive 97%. The missing 3%? Well, let's just say some planets had surprisingly aggressive fungal infections. But Earth? Earth was going to be easy money. The intelligence reports painted a picture of laughably defenseless creatures. No natural armor, no venomous fangs, no acid spit, and most pathetically of all, no claws worth mentioning. These humans had apparently compensated for their biological inadequacies by building primitive projectile weapons and calling themselves the dominant species. Adorable, really. Zektar adjusted his cloaking field and crouched in the bushes outside 1247 Maple Street, Beaverton, Ohio. Population 8,000, including what the humans called pets. The irony wasn't lost on him that these creatures kept even weaker species around for companionship. It was like watching a species advertise its own vulnerability. His target was simple: one human juvenile, male, approximately 8 Earth years old. The client had been very specific about age requirements. Something about optimal neuroplasticity. Zektar didn't ask questions, he just collected payment and delivered goods. Through his thermal scope, he observed the Miller family's evening routine. 2 adult humans, 1 juvenile, and according to his scans, 1 unidentified heat signature that seemed to move independently through the house, probably some kind of domestic animal. His research indicated humans often kept small, harmless creatures for emotional support. How wonderfully convenient that they'd already domesticated themselves. The parents, Dave and Linda Miller, were settling in for what appeared to be their nightly stupor in front of a glowing rectangle. Perfect. Zektar's paralysis beam could easily handle 2 sedentary adults. The child, Tommy, was in an upstairs room, likely in his sleeping phase based on the house's reduced activity. Zektar powered up his extraction equipment and ran through his mental checklist. Paralysis beam, check. Portable stasis field, check. Emergency teleportation beacon, check, though he doubted he'd need it. Backup communication device to call for support, also check, but again, this was Earth. What could possibly require backup? He was just about to initiate the approach sequence when that unidentified heat signature moved into clearer view through the ground floor window. Zektar froze. It was orange, and enormous, and it was sitting in the window like some kind of furry sentinel. Green eyes reflecting the streetlight with an intensity that made Zektar's primary stomach clench, uncomfortably. Just a domestic animal, he muttered to himself. Harmless pet, probably decorative. The creature in the window seemed to turn its head directly toward his hiding spot, which was impossible. His cloaking field was military grade. Those green eyes blinked once, slowly, deliberately. Zektar checked his equipment readings. Cloaking field, active. Thermal dampeners, active. Audio suppressors, active. There was absolutely no way a primitive Earth creature could detect him. The orange thing opened its mouth in what his translator interpreted as a yawn, revealing an impressive array of sharp, white teeth. Right, Zektar said, steadying his nerve. Standard extraction protocol. In and out, 30 minutes maximum. He crept toward the house, keeping low and moving with the practiced stealth of a professional predator. This was going to be the easiest 20,000 credits he'd ever made. In the window, Chairman Meow watched the strange, tall creature approach his territory, and began to purr. It was not a friendly purr. Zektar's first shot was perfect. His paralysis beam caught both adult humans simultaneously, dropping them into peaceful unconsciousness exactly as designed. Dave Miller's hand was still reaching for the remote control when the neural disruptor took effect. Linda Miller slumped sideways on the couch, her book falling to the floor with a soft thud. Textbook execution, Zektar whispered into his comm device. He powered down the beam and prepared to move to Phase 2, child extraction. He'd taken exactly 3 steps toward the front door when something landed on his head. 20 pounds of furious Maine Coon cat hit Zektar like a furry meteor, claws extended and yowling with the sound of 1,000 dying suns. Chairman Meow had apparently decided that the tall, ugly thing in his yard needed immediate correction, and cats don't believe in warning shots. What the? Zektar stumbled backward, frantically trying to dislodge what felt like an extremely angry throw pillow with knives. Get off! Get off! He fired his paralysis beam directly at the orange menace clinging to his skull. The beam hit Chairman Meow square in the chest with enough neural disruption energy to drop a Krellorian battle rhino. Chairman Meow paused his assault for approximately half a second, looked down at the glowing beam hitting his chest, then looked back at Zektar with an expression that clearly conveyed, "Is that supposed to be doing something?" Then he resumed, his face clawing with renewed enthusiasm. "Impossible!" Zektar spun in circles, trying to shake off his furry attacker while simultaneously checking his weapon readings. "Full power, maximum neural disruption, you should be unconscious." Chairman Meow responded by relocating his claws to Zektar's antenna array, which immediately began sparking. The alien's cloaking field flickered and died. "No, no, no, not the communications array!" Zektar reached up to protect his equipment, which was exactly the opening Chairman Meow had been waiting for. The cat launched himself from Zektar's head, performed a perfect mid-air twist that would have impressed Olympic gymnasts, and landed gracefully on the ground behind the alien. Zektar spun around, paralysis beam raised. "Stay back. I am a trained hunter of the Vorthek Empire. I have felled creatures 10 times your size." Chairman Meow sat down and began washing his paw, completely ignoring the weapon pointed at him. This was the feline equivalent of adjusting your tie after throwing someone through a window. "That's right," Zektar said, trying to regain his composure. "Recognize your superior. I am Apex Predator. You are just small domestic creature." Chairman Meow finished cleaning his paw and looked up at Zektar. Then, maintaining eye contact, he slowly knocked over the Miller's garden gnome. It fell with a ceramic crash that seemed to echo through the suburban night. "Why did you do that?" Zektar demanded. "That served no tactical purpose." Chairman Meow moved to the birdbath and, still watching Zektar, deliberately pushed a decorative stone off the edge. Splash. "Stop that. I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish." But Chairman Meow was just getting started. He padded over to Mrs. Miller's prize petunias and began systematically knocking over every single plant marker, maintaining perfect eye contact the entire time. Zektar realized with growing horror that this wasn't random destruction. This was psychological warfare. The creature was demonstrating that it could destroy anything in its territory at will, and there was absolutely nothing the mighty Vortak hunter could do to stop it. "This is impossible," he muttered, checking his weapon readings again. "Neural disruptors work on all organic life forms. It's basic biology." Chairman Meow finished with the garden markers and sat down in front of Zektar. Then he began purring again, but this time the sound was different. Deeper, more ominous. It was the purr of a predator who had just realized his prey was more entertaining than he'd initially thought. Zektar took a step backward, then another. Chairman Meow's pupils dilated to perfect black circles. "Okay," Zektar said, his voice climbing an octave. "Maybe I need to reassess the situation." Zektar fumbled for his emergency communicator with shaking hands while keeping his eyes locked on Chairman Meow, who had begun doing that creepy cat thing where they wiggle their hindquarters before pouncing. "Command, this is Hunter Zektar, requesting immediate tactical support." The response crackled through with the sardonic tone of General Thrix, his commanding officer. "Support? Already? Zektar, you've been planetside for exactly 14 minutes. What could you possibly need support for?" "I'm encountering unexpected resistance from a local apex predator." A pause, then laughter. Deep, rumbling Vorthak laughter that echoed through the comm system. "Apex predator? On Earth? Zektar, the most dangerous thing on that planet is their weather patterns. Are you telling me you can't handle one primitive mammal?" Chairman Meow chose that exact moment to demonstrate his vertical leap capability by launching himself directly at Zektar's face. The alien hunter dove sideways, rolled behind the Miller's mailbox, and came up with his dignity in tatters and his equipment smoking. "It's not responding to neural disruption. It appears to operate outside normal biological parameters." More laughter from the comm. "Oh, this is rich. The mighty Zektar, terror of 6 star systems, defeated by Earth wildlife. What's next? Are you going to tell me their vegetation is hostile?" "You'll send backup." Fine. I'm dispatching Hunters Vexoth, Kriltar, and Zyxnol. Surely 4 elite Vorthok warriors can handle one small Earth creature. Try not to embarrass the entire Empire before they arrive." The comm clicked off, leaving Zektar alone with his orange nemesis, who was now sitting perfectly still and watching him with the kind of predatory focus usually reserved for dying gazelles. 3 minutes later, 3 more cloaked figures materialized in the Miller's front yard. Vexoth, the demolitions expert, Kriltar, the stealth specialist, and Zyxnol, who held the record for fastest creature neutralization in the Outer Rim. "So, where's this terrifying beast?" Vexoth asked, powering up his plasma rifle. Zektar pointed at Chairman Meow, who was now grooming himself with the casual indifference of a creature that owned everything it could see. The three hunters looked at the cat. The cat looked back. Nobody moved. "That's it?" Kriltar's voice dripped with disbelief. "That's your apex predator? It's orange. And fluffy," added Zixnal. "Are you sure it's not just decorative?" "Watch and learn," Zektar said grimly. Vexoth raised his plasma rifle and fired a low-intensity stun blast directly at Chairman Meow. The orange cat observed the bright blue energy beam approaching, casually sidestepped it with the fluid grace of water flowing downhill, then began walking purposefully toward the four-armed aliens. "Okay, that's unusual," Vexoth admitted, "but it's just one creature." Kriltar activated his advanced cloaking system, the kind that bent light itself around his form. He became completely invisible to all known forms of detection. Chairman Meow stopped walking, tilted his head slightly to the left, then pounced with surgical precision on exactly where Kriltar was standing. The stealth specialist's scream of surprise echoed through the suburban night as 20 pounds of cat landed on his head and began the time-honored feline tradition of making biscuits with fully extended claws. "How is it tracking me? I'm invisible." "Cats don't hunt with their eyes, genius," Zektar called out. "They hunt with everything else." Zixnal, determined to maintain the team's reputation, activated his speed enhancement and rushed Chairman Meow at roughly 60 miles per hour. Chairman Meow waited until the last possible second, then simply wasn't there anymore. Zixnal crashed into the miller's prize-winning rose bush, while Chairman Meow materialized on top of the mailbox, having apparently teleported through some kind of cat-specific dimensional shortcut. "Did it just—" Vexel stared at the cat. "Did it just phase shift?" "Cats don't follow physics," Zektar said wearily. "I tried to tell Command, but nobody listens." Chairman Meow surveyed his four opponents, then began that slow, deliberate purr again, but this time he had backup. From somewhere in the darkness came an answering purr, then another, and another. The hunters looked around nervously as glowing eyes began appearing in windows, on fence posts, and from underneath cars. "How many domestic creatures do these humans keep?" Vexoth whispered. "All of them, apparently," Zektar replied, as the sound of approaching paws filled the night air. The porch light at 1249 Maple Street flickered on, and Mrs. Eleanor Patterson appeared in her doorway, wearing a floral nightgown and fuzzy slippers. At 73, she'd survived 3 husbands, 2 teenagers, and 47 years of library work. Strange noises in the middle of the night barely registered on her give-a-damn meter. "What in Sam Hill is going on out there?" she called out, squinting into the darkness where 4 invisible aliens were having what appeared to be nervous breakdowns. Of course, all she could see was Chairman Meow sitting regally on the miller's mailbox, surrounded by several other neighborhood cats who'd materialized like furry ghosts. Mrs. Patterson had what she called cat vision. 40 years of managing the library's resident mousers had taught her to read feline body language like a book, and right now, every cat in sight was displaying what she recognized as coordinated hunting behavior. "Well, I'll be," she murmured, then cupped her hands around her mouth. "Kitties, assemble." What happened next would later be described by General Thrix as a tactical nightmare of unprecedented proportions. Mrs. Patterson's back door opened, and her 6 rescue cats emerged in perfect formation. Leading the pack was Shadow, a sleek black tom who'd earned his name by appearing in impossible places at impossible times. Behind him came Duchess, a pristine white Persian whose blue eyes held the cold calculation of a mob accountant. Next was Gremlin, a tabby whose small size belied his talent for absolute chaos. Princess followed, a calico who treated every situation like a personal insult. Then came Bandit, a tuxedo cat with white paws who specialized in theft and misdirection. Finally, bringing up the rear, was Tank, a massive gray tom who'd gotten his name by walking through screen doors instead of around them. The 4 alien hunters watched in growing horror as the cats arranged themselves in what could only be described as a tactical formation. "This is impossible," Vexoth whispered. "They're organizing. Primitive domestic creatures don't organize." "Tell that to them," Zektar hissed back, pointing at Shadow, who had somehow gotten behind their position without anyone seeing him move. Mrs. Patterson, meanwhile, had pulled out her cell phone. "Hello, 911. This is Eleanor Patterson at 1249 Maple Street. I need to report some kind of disturbance in my neighbor's yard. No, I can't see exactly what's happening, but all the cats are acting like there's something out there that shouldn't be." She paused, listening to the dispatcher. No, Officer Rodriguez, I'm not calling about cats fighting. The cats are working together. That's what has me worried. Duchess had positioned herself on the miller's front steps and was staring directly at Kriltar's invisible form. She began what could only be described as psychological warfare, purring, the kind of sound that made experienced hunters question their life choices. Gremlin, meanwhile, had discovered Vexot's equipment pack and was systematically knocking each piece of advanced alien technology off the porch with his paw. "Stop that!" Vexoth lunged for his plasma rifle just as it tumbled toward the ground. "That's worth more than your entire planet!" The gremlin paused, looked directly at the invisible alien, then deliberately pushed the rifle off the porch anyway. It hit the concrete with an expensive-sounding crash. Princess had taken up position near Zixnal and was performing the cat equivalent of intimidation by slowly extending and retracting her claws while maintaining unblinking eye contact with his general location. Bandit was running interference, darting between the aliens' legs and somehow managing to tangle their equipment cables despite being unable to see the actual equipment. Tank, the largest of Mrs. Patterson's crew, had stationed himself next to Chairman Meow and was radiating the kind of quiet menace that made experienced predators reconsider their career choices. "This is a nightmare," Zaxnal muttered. "How are they coordinating without verbal communication?" "They're using pheromone markers and body language," Zektar explained miserably. "It's like they have their own tactical network." Kriltar, still invisible but thoroughly surrounded, tried to edge toward the street. Shadow immediately materialized in his path, sitting perfectly still but somehow managing to convey that moving forward would be inadvisable. "They're hurting us," Vexoth realized. "The small furry creatures are hurting us like prey animals." Indeed. The cats had formed a loose circle around the four aliens, each feline positioned to cut off escape routes, while maintaining enough distance to avoid counterattacks. It was textbook pack-hunting behavior, except performed by creatures that were supposed to be solitary domestic pets. Mrs. Patterson watched the spectacle with growing fascination. She couldn't see the aliens, but she could see her cats, performing military-grade tactical maneuvers around empty air. "You know what, Dispatch? Cancel that request for animal control. Send Officer Rodriguez, and tell him to bring the good camera. I think we're going to want documentation of this." She paused, then added, "And maybe call the Miller's house and tell them their cat might be leading some kind of neighborhood resistance movement. They should probably know." In the distance, the sound of approaching sirens began to wail through the night. The cats heard it too, and their formation tightened. Whatever was happening in the Miller's front yard, the local feline population had apparently decided it was their responsibility to contain it until human backup arrived. Zektar looked at his fellow hunters, then at the circle of cats, then at the approaching police sirens. "I think," he said quietly, "we might be in trouble." Officer Miguel Rodriguez had been patrolling Beaverton for 12 years, and in that time he'd learned to recognize what he privately called weird night calls. Mrs. Patterson reporting coordinated cat behavior at 2:47 a.m. definitely qualified. He pulled his cruiser up to 1247 Maple Street and immediately understood why Dispatch had sounded confused. The Miller's front yard looked like the aftermath of a very polite riot. Garden gnomes were overturned, plant markers scattered, and approximately 9 cats were arranged in what looked suspiciously like a military perimeter around absolutely nothing. "Well," Rodriguez muttered, grabbing his flashlight and body cam, "this is definitely going in the monthly report." He approached Mrs. Patterson, who was standing on her porch in her nightgown, watching the proceedings with the keen interest of someone observing a particularly engaging nature documentary. "Evening, Mrs. Patterson. Dispatch said you called about a disturbance?" "That's right, Officer Rodriguez. Something's got all the cats worked up, and they're acting like they've got something cornered right there in Dave Miller's front yard." Rodriguez shined his flashlight across the yard. The beam illuminated Chairman Meow, who was sitting on the mailbox looking extraordinarily pleased with himself, and several other cats positioned around what appeared to be empty space. "I don't see anything, ma'am." "Neither do I. But watch this." Mrs. Patterson picked up a small pebble and tossed it into the center of the cat formation. The pebble hit something invisible about 3 feet off the ground and bounced off with a distinctly metallic sound. Rodriguez stared. Then he pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. I'm going to need backup at 1247 Maple Street, and, maybe somebody from the county office who handles unusual situations." "Define unusual, 7. The cats appear to have surrounded something that isn't there, but also definitely is there." A long pause. "Say again, 7? "Just send backup, dispatch, and maybe the fire department. I have a feeling this is going to get complicated. That's when Tommy Miller's bedroom window opened on the second floor. 8-year-old Tommy had been awakened by the commotion and had done what any modern child would do in a potentially historic situation. Grabbed his tablet and started recording. "Holy cow," Tommy whispered, pointing his device at the yard below. "Chairman Meow's got aliens." His tablet's night vision mode clearly showed 4 tall, distinctly non-human figures standing in his front yard, surrounded by cats. Tommy, who spent most of his free time watching YouTube videos about cryptids and unexplained phenomena, immediately recognized this as the content opportunity of a lifetime. "Okay, TikTok," he whispered to his tablet's camera. "You're not going to believe this, but there are literally invisible aliens in my front yard right now, and my cat has them trapped." Down in the yard, Zektar heard the child's voice and looked up to see a small human pointing some kind of recording device directly at them. "The juvenile is documenting us," he hissed to his team. "Impossible," Vexoth replied. "We're cloaked." "Tell that to the recording device," Zektar shot back. Tommy, meanwhile, was providing running commentary for his rapidly growing live audience. "Okay, so the big orange one is Chairman Meow, he's like the neighborhood boss cat. The black one is Shadow, he belongs to Mrs. Patterson. That white one is Duchess, she's super prissy, but apparently also tactical genius." Officer Rodriguez heard the child's voice and looked up at the window. "Tommy? Tommy Miller? What are you doing up there?" "Documenting first contact, Officer Rodriguez. This is going on every social media platform I can think of." "First contact with what?" Tommy held up his tablet so Rodriguez could see the screen. Even from the ground, the officer could clearly make out 4 tall, distinctly alien figures, standing exactly where the cats had them surrounded. Rodriguez stared at the tablet screen, then at the empty-looking yard, then back at the screen. "Well," he said finally, "that explains the cats." By this time, Tommy's livestream had attracted several hundred viewers, and the comment section was exploding with excitement. The view count was climbing rapidly as word spread across the internet that some kid in Ohio was broadcasting what appeared to be genuine alien contact. "Okay, chat," Tommy continued his narration, "the aliens look really frustrated right now, like Chairman Meow has basically turned them into the world's most advanced cat toys." Indeed, the 4 Vorthok hunters were beginning to show signs of serious psychological stress. They'd gone from confident predators to prey animals in the span of 20 minutes. And now they had human law enforcement and social media documentation to contend with. "This is a diplomatic incident," Kriltar moaned. "Command is going to have our molting cycles for this." "Diplomatic incident?" Zakesnol laughed bitterly. "We're being held prisoner by house pets while a human child broadcasts our humiliation to their primitive information network." Mrs. Patterson, meanwhile, had been watching Officer Rodriguez study Tommy's tablet with great interest. "So you can see them on the recording device?" she asked. "Clear as day, ma'am. 4 of them, about 7 feet tall. Definitely not from around here." "Well then," Mrs. Patterson said practically, "I suppose I should go put on some coffee. This looks like it might take a while." She paused at her door and looked back at the scene. "Should I call the Millers and let them know they've got company?" Rodriguez looked at the 2 unconscious adults visible through the living room window, then at the child documenting everything from the second floor, then at the tactical cat formation maintaining perfect discipline around 4 increasingly desperate alien visitors. "You know what, Mrs. Patterson? Let's see how this plays out first. I have a feeling Dave and Linda are going to need all the sleep they can get before they wake up to deal with this." Tommy's livestream viewer count had just passed 5,000 and was climbing rapidly. In the comments section, people were already posting screenshots and sharing the stream across platforms. The aliens were no longer just trapped by cats. They were trapped by cats while being broadcast live to the entire internet. And somewhere in orbit, General Thrix was about to have the worst morning briefing of his military career. General Thrix had been monitoring the mission from his command ship with the casual interest of someone watching a nature documentary. Earth extraction missions were supposed to be routine. Boring, even. The kind of assignment you gave to hunters who needed easy victories to boost their confidence ratings. That confidence had evaporated approximately 37 minutes ago. "Repeat that transmission, Hunter Zektar," General Thrix said, his voice carrying the dangerous calm of a superior officer trying very hard not to lose his composure. "Sir, we are currently detained by a coordinated force of domestic Earth creatures numbering approximately 9 individuals, all of which appear to operate outside standard biological parameters. Additionally, local law enforcement has arrived, and our presence is being broadcast live to the planet's global information network." General Thrix stared at the tactical display showing 4 heat signatures surrounded by much smaller ones in perfect formation. You're telling me that 4 elite Vorthak hunters are being held hostage by pets? Sir, I respectfully submit that these are not pets in any conventional sense. They appear to be some kind of highly evolved tactical species that humans keep as companions. Possibly a symbiotic relationship where the humans provide resources in exchange for home defense services. And the broadcasting situation? A human juvenile is documenting the entire encounter using their primitive recording technology. Current viewership has exceeded 12,000 and is climbing exponentially. Sir, within hours the entire planet will have visual evidence of our species. General Thrix pulled up the intercepted video feed from Tommy's live stream. What he saw defied every piece of intelligence the Vortek Empire had gathered about Earth. 4 of his best hunters were clearly visible on the screen, standing in a suburban yard while 9 Earth cats maintained perfect tactical positioning around them. The cats weren't acting like animals. They were acting like a military unit, with clear command structure and coordinated strategy. But what truly horrified General Thrix was the comment section. Thousands of humans were watching this unfold in real time, and their responses ranged from excitement to humor to tactical analysis. User CatLady47 suggests the orange one is the commanding officer, his translator informed him helpfully. User Alien Hunter 2024 is providing real-time tactical commentary on feline formation strategy. User Tommy's mom is asking why her son is awake at 3 a.m. and also whether she should be proud or concerned. General Thrix muted the translator before it could provide more cultural context he absolutely didn't want. On the screen, he watched one of the Earth creatures deliberately push a piece of advanced Vorthek equipment off a raised surface for no apparent tactical reason other than psychological warfare. The human comment section exploded with laughter emojis. "This is a disaster," General Thrix muttered. Then, louder, "Command to all hunters, execute immediate emergency extraction. Authorization Omega-7. "Sir," came Zektar's strained voice, "we're unable to reach extraction coordinates. The small furry ones have established a containment perimeter and appear to be herding us toward the human dwelling's rear storage structure." General Thrix looked at his tactical screen again. The 4 hunters were indeed being systematically moved toward what appeared to be a small building behind the main structure. The cats were employing classic hunting pack behavior, using coordinated positioning to guide their prey exactly where they wanted them. "They're corralling you," he realized with growing horror. "The domestic creatures are using advanced pack hunting techniques." "Sir, with respect, they're not domestic. I don't think they were ever domestic. I think humans just convinced themselves they domesticated creatures that were actually managing them." General Thrix watched the orange cat, Chairman Meow, signal something to the others with a barely perceptible ear twitch. Immediately, 2 of the other cats adjusted their positions to block potential escape routes. The coordination was flawless, military grade even. "Sir," came another voice over the comm, "this is Lieutenant Vexoth. I've analyzed the tactical situation, and I believe we may have severely underestimated Earth's defensive capabilities. These creatures aren't pets. They're a symbiotic warrior class that humans have integrated into their society. And the broadcasting situation continues to deteriorate," added Kriltar. "The video feed now shows over 25,000 viewers. The Human Information Network is amplifying our presence across their entire planetary communication system." General Thrix made a decision that would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for decades to come. "All units, emergency teleportation extraction. Immediate. Leave all equipment." "Sir, that's standard protocol violation." "Now." The 4 hunters vanished in shimmers of transported light, leaving behind roughly 2 million credits worth of advanced alien technology scattered across the Miller family's front yard. The cats, having successfully defended their territory, began the traditional post-victory ritual of grooming themselves, with the satisfaction of a job well done. Tommy's livestream, now approaching 50,000 viewers, captured every moment of the aliens' panicked retreat. "Holy crap, chat, they just straight up abandoned everything and ran away," Tommy's excited commentary echoed through the night. "Chairman Meow literally made aliens retreat. This is the best night ever." Officer Rodriguez walked over to examine the abandoned equipment with the careful attention of someone who was going to have to write a very unusual incident report. Mrs. Patterson emerged from her house carrying a tray of coffee and cookies, because in her experience, weird situations always went better with refreshments. And in orbit, General Thrix was composing what would become known as the Earth Prohibition Directive. "To all vassals of the Vorthak Empire," he dictated to his communications officer. "By order of General Thrix, Earth designation Sol 3 is hereby classified as a Class 1 forbidden zone. All contact with this system is prohibited under penalty of court-martial. Sir, what classification reasons should I include? General Thrix looked at the tactical footage one more time, watching 9 Earthcats systematically dismantle the confidence of 4 trained hunters, using nothing but psychological warfare and superior tactical coordination. Hostile, symbiotic warrior species, he said finally. And whatever you do, make sure every ship commander understands, it's not the humans you have to worry about, it's the small furry ones, the ones with the dead eyes and the retractable claws. He paused, then added, and put a special notation in the file. Under no circumstances should anyone attempt contact with the orange ones. They appear to be officer class. Down on Earth, Chairman Meow finished his grooming, looked up at the stars with supreme satisfaction and began purring. It was the purr of a job well done. Tommy's live stream would eventually reach over 2 million views, making him temporarily internet famous, and Chairman Meow a global celebrity. Mrs. Patterson received a commendation from the mayor for outstanding community vigilance. Officer Rodriguez got a promotion, and the most interesting police report in Ohio state history. Dave and Linda Miller woke up the next morning to find their front yard full of alien technology, their son famous on social media, and their cat being interviewed by CNN. They decided to go back to bed and deal with it after more coffee. And somewhere in the galactic database, Earth's entry was quietly updated with a single, crucial warning that would keep humanity safe for generations to come. Inhabited by humans and their terrifying orange overlords. Do not engage.